Change the topic, change your gear. Why not? Clutch in. Can sport survive without gambling? It's a question I posed before. It really draws a very mixed response. Betting has always been part of sport, but now it's everywhere. Ads, odds, promos during games. As I mentioned, kids knowing sports odds. I'm always a bit weird about that one. What does it exactly do? Martin Thomas is the CEO of the Alliance for Gambling Reform. Joins us now. G'day, Martin.
Morning, Nick.
Thanks for joining us. Martin, I think obviously there's lots of discussion at a federal level about the impact that gambling is having on our enjoyment of the sport. I mean, you've obviously got a position there to talk about reform, but what levels are we moving into about the impact of gambling on sport at the moment?
Oh, it's almost a total takeover in terms of gambling, particularly for our two major football codes. They are really reaping huge amounts of money from the direct sponsorship that they have of gambling companies. They also are able to have inflated television rights they sell because they know the TV companies can sell to gambling advertisers. And then finally, which a lot of people don't know, is the AFL and the NRL take a clip of losing bets. So with their own supporters, if they lose on their bets, the AFL actually profits. And although it's a little bit opaque, there's talk of up to about $50 million that the AFL and the NRL reap from gambling ads.
I mean, this has formed part of what the AFL and the NRL has put down in a trickle through clubs and country clubs, etc. So we have seen some change up there. So the funding model has built out the sport. Is it sustainable?
Well, I don't think it is. And I guess for those with a bit longer memory, we used to have cigarette companies all over our sport. You used to watch F1 and it was a race between two cigarette brands.
Yeah.
So we have, and in Australia the decision was made that this is a legal but adult product and it needs to be restricted. And that's exactly our position on gambling. We're not against gambling. People are more than free to have a punt, but we don't need the level of advertising that we're having, particularly advertising that's getting through to our kids. And that's having a huge impact. Some of the research we had from the Australian Institute recently showed when you look at the big participation sports for kids, soccer and basketball, in the underage teenage group, there's actually more kids from 12 to 17 gambling than they are playing sport. So gambling on sport rather than playing it, it's ridiculous.
At the moment, we do have warnings at the end of these gambling ads, which are partly from the gambling companies, from a form of self-governance. Now, I do find those warnings quite striking, like what are you really losing, etc., those sort of things too. Are we seeing any change in gambling behaviour because of these new warnings that have been in place now for nearly 2 years?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, our gambling losses continue to happen at a record rate. So people may not know, but we lose close to $32 billion every year. We are the world's biggest loser on a per capita basis. For a long time, poker machines were the thing that were fleecing people, and they still do. But there has been an explosion of sports betting. It's growing at about 50% year on year. And these are, apart from the fact that they're foreign-owned companies registered in the Northern Territory with little transparency, but these big bookmakers essentially don't have shop fronts. The thing that is driving it is the advertising. And the regulator, ACMA, talked about the fact that there are 1 million gambling ads on our screen every year in Australia. We have people that come back expats who come back from Australia who've been away for a few years, and they are stunned. It really is the case of us being slowly cooked alive and not realising it by the inundation of gambling ads. And that $32 billion in losses, as you mentioned earlier, creates social harm in terms of domestic violence, even suicide at an industrial scale. In fact, the research shows that during finals times, during State of Origin, when it comes to Queensland and New South Wales, because of the mix of alcohol and gambling, there is a huge spike in domestic violence cases reported to police and DV services.
And away it goes too. Let's stick back to the topic of gambling. At Mount Albert North, we've got Carolyn. Morning, Carolyn.
Oh, good morning.
Okay, tell us a bit about your thoughts here.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's an absolute disgrace that children are being able to quote what the odds are each weekend. That's my first point. Secondly, I was in London for a few years, and when I came back, yes, I agree, the amount of advertising was out of control. But what I'd like to see is one step further than those warnings at the end of the gambling ads. I'd like to see something similar to what they do on a cigarette package where, you know, they put awful photos of people with dreadful diseases, you know, saying smoking kills. I'd like to see something like a coffin or a noose next to the advertising. I have a friend who hung herself, leaving behind 4 small children as a result of a gambling addiction. So we need more than just saying, what is gambling costing you? We need to be aware that this is actually killing people.
Appreciate the call. Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you.
On that then, Martin, I think this is where people do feel like there needs to be stronger warnings re-addiction. Funnily enough, you know, talking about Meta today saying, well, we're going to challenge that they have been found guilty in a California court or liable in a California court about addiction. Are we moving into a new stage there?
Well, we need to be. I mean, there's no doubt that gambling is a public health issue, and it has massive implications on families, as we just heard from that caller. And again, I guess what we did with tobacco, Australia 20, 30 years ago saw this was an issue that had not only financial cost, but huge social cost, and we restricted it. And we should do exactly the same with gambling. The problem is that our political leaders don't acknowledge that gambling is a harmful product and a public health issue like smoking was. And I think the other thing is that the sheer fact that kids are really being brainwashed, in some cases they're being groomed. We've had cases of big bookmakers reaching out to kids on their social media feed, kids as young as 14, to download gambling apps. So it's a very cynical grooming of our young kids by the gambling industry. And I think no matter where you stand on gambling, no one thinks it's okay for kids, you know, under 17 to be betting.
Appreciate the call this morning, Martin. Lots to delve into. Got a few texts to get to as well, but for the time being, thanks for having a chat with us.
No problem. Thanks so much.
Good on you, Martin Thomas there, the CEO for the Alliance of Gambling Reform, joining us here on ABC Radio. To your calls this morning. Lots to have a chat about for today. Let's take that one. Alan at Frankston. G'day, Alan.
Okay.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye. At the Kimberley. G'day, Tracy.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to say that I left Victoria because of a pokey addiction.
Oh.
I basically started selling everything. Things that were the most precious to me, and knew that I had to just go. Like, I was getting counselling, and I was banning myself from places. But pokies are actually programmed to
They are. Now, Tracy, I so want to hear your story, but it sounds like your mobile reception might be giving us a bit of blimey. I don't know if you're able to move to another area there. I'd like to hear.
I'm under a satellite.
Ah, there we yes.
So,
Well, that's
and we've had that cyclone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I figured if there's one thing we can all discuss, it's telecommunications in Australia. But Tracy, so did you move from Victoria to the Kimberley?
Yes.
Yeah, wow, to get that far away from it. And in WA, it's a very different story, of course, with pokies.
Well, there's none anyway.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah, absolutely. You know, such a different way, and really appreciate you sharing your story. I'm sure there's many more as well. Hey, Trace, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good on you. Bye-bye. Tracy calling in there this morning here on ABC Radio, where we're